Welcome on in, Chicago, as we are back on Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. What a win yesterday by your Chicago Bears. Talk about a statement victory. Wow. Just wow yesterday from the Bears. So much to go through, so much to dissect. We will be diving into the Bears. What does this mean in the context of that game? How about this season? How about the off season? So many thoughts, so little time to dive into it. We're going to spend the next 50 minutes or so talking about those Bears. Also, Shohei Ohtani made his decision over the weekend, and I'm a little surprised by the reaction around town. We'll dive into that a little bit too. This is Chi-Town Weekly. Do not go anywhere. Here we go. And once again, hello and good evening, everyone. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Glad that you are here with me tonight on this Monday night after a huge Bears win against the Detroit Lions yesterday afternoon on the lakefront. Holy cow, we have been waiting. We have been waiting all season for a win like that one, and we finally got it. 14 weeks into the season, we finally got a signature statement win by the Chicago Bears. Lots to get into there from that one. I want to talk not just at the micro level. We'll do some of that too, because that was a huge game yesterday. But I want to take a look at some of the macro stuff with the Bears too today with that one. What does this mean in the context of this season? What does this mean in the context of the Eberflus era? What does this mean in the context of the Bears going forward? We are going to get through a lot of thoughts, a lot of things here with this one tonight. Not that we don't like the other sports, not that we don't pay attention to things like the Bulls game that is tipping off in Milwaukee right now against the Bucks as they try to keep their 4-game winning streak alive. Not that we don't care about the Hawks and their 2-1-1 homestand from over the weekend. Not that we don't care about college hoops with the Illini ranked at 16th and the Wildcats jumping into the top 25 in the AP polls and some of the other massive blowouts that occurred over the weekend, whether it was Olivet Nazarene or Loyola Chicago. Not that we don't care about those things, but we are going to be diving headlong, heavy into Bears conversation tonight. Lots to get through. Before we get too much further, of course, we do want to acknowledge our sponsor here at the station, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net to place your order. They still are offering free shipping on all orders of $50 or more. Whatever your palate is, whatever your taste buds like, from the mild smoke and barbecue, the nice tangy sauce there, to sweet pepper teriyaki, all the way up to the Carolina Reaper. Anything and everything in between there, it's all good. Once again, planetjerky.net. The jerky that's on a whole other planet. and IE Sports Radio for the closing in on 10 years now. IE Sports Radio has brought you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Be sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to keep up with the latest in sports and with the shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, which is actually taking nominations right now tonight. Pages dedicated to each of our podcasts, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and also stop by the shop and check out the merchandise. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And you heard in there how to follow along with the network. You can also follow along with this show directly on X. We are available at IESRC. You can follow along there, or you can follow along with me personally. I am at Adam_Karnick. All right. A lot to get through. First of all, if you are listening live here tonight on Monday night on Spreaker.com, whether you found your way here from either X or Facebook or you're a regular listener, hop on into the chat room. Taryn Rodriguez and Davidson Crooks are already there. Good evening, gentlemen. Ready? We are going to be diving into a lot of football conversation tonight. I'd love to get some feedback from you. Hop on into the chat room. Interact with us that way. Throw some questions. Throw comments. Tell me you like what you're hearing. Tell me you don't like what you're hearing. Whatever it is, hop on in. Let's interact that way. Or if you're listening later on in the week as a podcast, or you're shy, you just want to sit back and listen, whatever it is, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Now let's dive on in to that Bears game from yesterday. Whoa. What a statement all around. What a statement victory for the Bears, holding the Lions to under 80 yards of offense in the entire second half. Once again, turning Jared Goff into a turnover machine against the Bears. He's thrown 10 interceptions all season. 5 of those have come against the Bears. They win the turnover battle 3-0 again. They dominate time of possession over 33 minutes to under 27 for the Lions, holding the Lions to just 13 first downs for the game. Under 270 yards of offense, including less than 80 yards of offense in the second half. Just a total domination. And then Justin Fields, 19 of 33, not a spectacular completion percentage, but you figure 15 of those, he had 15 of those completions in the second half. He had just 4 completions in the entire first half. Very few throws by him in the first half at all. 223 yards, a touchdown. Once again, no interceptions. And 58 yards rushing and a touchdown there. Just an outstanding ball game overall. And we'll touch on some of the little stuff too from this game specifically. But then I want to zoom out and I want to talk some macro stuff with the Bears, because there is just so much macro going on now with this team. Now that incredulously, we can say that they are realistically in the playoff picture again. As strange as that sounds. So we got a lot to get through. First of all, this game. Let's start with the offense for a little bit. Once again, the opening drive. Say what you will about Luke Getsy, and we'll talk about Luke Getsy some more later. Say what you will about him. He comes up with good scripts to start the game. Once again, the Bears just marched down the field with relative ease and punched it into the end zone with a play that, according to DJ Moore, they literally installed for the first time the week leading up into that game. That Wildcat gadget play where DJ Moore becomes the quarterback and fakes the toss to Fields before keeping it himself. That play had got introduced to the team this past week. They installed it just for this game, and the coaches were so confident in it that the offensive line coach even told DJ in the week leading up to practice that when we call this, you're going to score. I guarantee it. You're going to score when you get this. But the dagger, of course, was in the third quarter, the 4th and 13 free play that literally the Bears just went up there with the whole idea is we're going to draw the Lions offside, and if they don't, well, then we take it to delay a game penalty and it makes it easier to punt. And by golly, Justin got the Lions to jump. He got Aiden Hutchinson to jump, and then DJ Moore said, screw it, I'm going. Put on a beautiful move to beat the defensive back, and Justin just throws an absolute laser. A 35-yard handoff for the score. Just a beautiful throw. Beautiful play. And that's all just professional football players trusting each other and drawing it up as they go, making it up as they go, and knowing where everybody's at with it. On the defensive side, of course, everybody's talking about Jaquan Brisker playing with his hair on fire, getting 17 tackles, as well they should. Jalen Johnson, another interception, his 4th. Edmonds with another interception. Just the Montez Sweat with the sack and all the quarterback pressures and hits that he generated. But there was a play that stood out to me that was otherwise fairly innocuous in the first half that reminded me of 2018. The Bears lined up in man-to-man coverage, and the Lions had a play called specifically for man. It was a pick play. It was one of those designed wide receiver picks. And the secondary is Jalen Johnson, and I apologize, I don't remember who the other corner was. They communicated with each other, and they just did a basketball switch. They just literally did a pick and roll switch. They changed who they were responsible for, and it led to Jared Goff not being able to complete a pass, to throwing an ugly pass that led to problems. This defense has taken the next step. It's impressive to see. Marcus Lowe's great. Apparently the Bears messed up his parlay. So what was the parlay, Marcus? I got to know what were you? And I hope you didn't lose too much. I can't apologize though. I cannot. I would apologize, but it would be insincere. So I'm not going to do that. I want to stay real with you. I am curious though what the parlay was. But this defense has taken the next step. They have made the moves to be a fearsome defense. And this is, without question, the biggest win of the Eberflus era. First time they've won back-to-back games. You beat the Lions. First time you've beaten them. Second consecutive divisional win. Second consecutive win over a team with a winning record. And doing it with Marcus chiming in. It was a 6-team money line parlay. I needed the Bears to complete it. So was you needed the Bears to lose, or you needed the Bears to? I'm assuming you needed the Bears to not cover. I'm curious what it was. I'm curious about the parlay, but Marcus, I can't apologize that with it being a 6-team parlay, I imagine you probably weren't risking too much on that. That's the nice thing about those massive, when you need 6 or 8 or 10 legs of a parlay, you usually don't have to risk too much to make those work. But I want to zoom out for a minute now with the Bears here and talk about some macro stuff as Mike Pat jumps into the chat and joins in with us. Somebody end my season. The Bears have a better record than the Commanders. At least the Commanders did not lose this past week. They were mercifully on their bye week. Sam Howell didn't get sacked 17 times this week. Unless, I don't know, maybe he was at home and maybe his significant other decided that he needed to get dropped onto the floor a bunch of times. I don't know. But let's zoom out for a minute, okay? A lot of conversation has now centered around, and it was happening even before this game. We were hearing it in the week. I was hearing it in the week leading up to it, where it was, there might not be as much feeling in the building that Eberflus needs to go as much as the fans want to think. The Bears have quietly gone 4-4 in the last month. And now they've gone 5-4. This has been a good stretch. You've won 2 in a row, 3 out of the last 4. I mean, it was not that long ago that the Bears were 2-7, and it was blow everything up, get rid of everybody, nothing here works. Let's just end this now. And suddenly now the Bears are 5-8. And they're being talked about in the playoff picture. I guess that's as good a spot as any to start the playoff picture. CBS Sports came out with one. Excuse me. My voice is still slightly recovering from being sick a couple weeks ago, so I'm not coughing as much, but I do apologize if one or two sneak out there. I apologize. I'll try to get the button as quickly as I can, but the Bears, amazingly enough, I think it was CBS Sports gave them a 1.4% chance of making the playoffs. So you're telling me there's a chance. And it required the Bears winning out, the Vikings dropping 3 out of their final 4. At best, only one team from the NFC South finishing with a winning record. And then having the Rams and the Seahawks, one of those two teams has to lose at least twice. And yes, Mike, the Bears are 3-1 basically since Montez Sweat came to town. Since that acquisition, I believe they're technically 3-2 since the trade deadline. But yes, Montez Sweat has been a huge part of why the defense is having success, because they're able to generate pressure up front. Montez Sweat was a monster yesterday. He had a sack. He had 8 quarterback pressures. He was constantly living in Jared Goff's face, and that allowed Yannick Ngakoue to have success. That allowed Javon Dexter to have success. That allowed other linemen to have success as well. So, yes, the Montez Sweat trade so far is paying off in spades for the Bears. But looking back at this playoff scenario for the Bears, as crazy as it is, I think the hardest part of that leg would be having the Bears win their Final Four. I find it very hard to make the leap from, this is a team that just a few weeks ago, less than a month ago, had never even won 2 in a row. Now you tell me they're going to go on a run that ultimately would result in 6 consecutive wins. I find that hard to swallow. That's a hard pill for me to swallow. I can buy the Vikings dropping 3 out of their last 4. They're going to be on their 3rd string quarterback. They've got the somehow still good Cincinnati Bengals on their schedule. They've got the Lions twice, and then they've also got the Packers. So they've got I could see them dropping 3 out of 4. The NFC South, absolutely. Those teams are all bizarre and weird. I can absolutely believe that at best only one of them finishes with a winning record. Heck, that might even be a stretch. I wouldn't be shocked if the winner of the NFC South is 8-9 overall. The Rams and the Seahawks, that's a little tricky, needing one of those two teams to lose twice at least. That's going to be a little tricky, but it could happen. It's, to me, the part of that's hardest to catch is the Bears winning their Final Four. This next game at Cleveland is going to be tricky. I know that it wasn't that long ago that we were thinking, the Browns are overinflated. Their defense is great, but their offense can't do anything. Joe Flacco is not playing poorly. Take a look at what Flacco has done since coming in. He threw for 311 yards and 3 touchdowns yesterday against the Jaguars. Against the Rams, he threw for 254 and a pair of touchdowns. He's had a couple of strong games here with Cleveland. They are not necessarily pushovers. Then you've got home against the Cardinals. They should win that one, but the Bears are so seldom favorites. You've got a weird Falcons team they're in NFC North. They're none of them are good, but any one of them can bite you in the butt at any given moment. They're scrappy. And then you've got the finale in Lambeau, and the Packers are playing right now tonight. They've got a fairly easy schedule the rest of the way before they play Chicago. Who knows what they're going to be at that point? This isn't the same Packers team from a month or two ago where it was Jordan Love was looking like an imbecile. So I find it hard to believe that they will win all 4 of these. I think they can. I think they could beat any of these opponents, but I think they also could just as easily lose to any one of them as well. So what should we take from this? Looking more at a macro level here for a little bit as we dive headlong into some Bears stuff here, into some meat and potatoes of some serious Bears talk. Is Eberflus safe? If this is the end of it, if they turn around and drop, if 5 is it, that's all the wins they get, then no, then you drop kick him and his staff directly into the sun, just like the plan was 4 weeks ago when they were 2-7. You push the eject button on this entire coaching staff. You cannot tell me, oh, they went 5-4 in the middle of the season. That can't erase 2 separate 4-game losing streaks to bookend your season. That's half your season where you win 0 games and you had them consecutively. Not to mention the 10-game losing streak that ended last season. So he is by no means out of the woods. But at the same time, it's trending the right way. If they win out, absolutely he's, I think back to some things that I said before the season, whether it was here or some guest spots elsewhere. Before the season started, I said, if you can tell me that the Bears will be playing meaningful games in December and that they win 7 or more, if they win 7 or more and they're playing meaningful games come December, I will take that. Well, 7 wins isn't off the table yet, and somehow, miracle of miracles, they're only a game and a half out of the last playoff spot with 4 weeks to go. And if the Packers somehow lose tonight, I don't find that likely, but if they somehow lose tonight, I mean, they are down their top receiver, they are down their top running back, and the Giants have been another one of those weird teams. If the Packers somehow lose tonight, then the Bears find themselves just a game out with 4 weeks to go. Yeah, there's a lot of teams between them and the last spot, but that criteria still is met, that you're playing meaningful games in December, and 7+ wins is not yet off the table. So I have to be fair there and say that Eberflus, he's not out of the woods, but he can still salvage this thing. All right, so what does that mean then? If he salvages this. This is another popular conversation with a lot of fans, not so much with media, but definitely with fans, that okay, if Flus is safe, well, you got to get rid of one of the following. You either get rid of Luke Getsy, offensive coordinator, or you trade Justin Fields to go draft somebody. Well, let's address those, because I think that if Eberflus is safe, I don't think either of those things is happening. And here's why. Hear me out on this. If Eberflus is safe, it's going to be with the understanding and the caveat that, okay, you got yourself out of it. You salvaged the season, but you don't have a very long leash. You can't wait until week 5 to figure out how to unlock your quarterback again. You can't wait until 2/3 of the way through the season to win 2 in a row. So he's going to be, his seat was hot during the season. There is no way that he would go into next season with a seat that isn't at least warm, with the potential to turn hot very quickly. So in that case, do we start with Fields or do we start with Getsy? let's start with Fields. Let's start with Justin Fields, because Mike Pat asks in the chat the question then that's on everybody's mind then, if the Bears do commit to Justin Fields, what do they do with that first overall pick? So let's start with Justin Fields. Then we'll get to Getsy. Here's why I think that if Flus is safe, then Fields is a near lock to come back. If Flus is on a prove-it year, the last thing a head coach that's on a prove-it year wants is to play a rookie quarterback. Just look at what happened with Matt Nagy when he was here just a few years ago, and they drafted they'd moved up to get Justin Fields. Nagy wanted nothing to do with Justin actually seeing the field, because there's always that potential for an adjustment period or a growing pain period where the rookie quarterback is gonna show that he's a rookie, and it's going to cost you. And the coach can't afford to have that blemish on his record, even though an intelligent person could see that, well, yeah, it's a rookie quarterback. You're making him grow. It's that, oh no, I was given an ultimatum that I've got to win now, and this kid is costing me games. I can't have that. So they're not going to want to go with a rookie quarterback. He's not going to want to go with a rookie quarterback then. And anybody that you find in free agency at quarterback, even though the Bears have boatloads of cap space, as Mike references in the chat room here, that the Bears have boatloads of cap space, starting caliber quarterbacks don't become available in free agency. Your cream of the crop in free agency is going to be somebody like Ryan Tannehill or Desmond Ridder or I'm trying to think of another name off the top, another blah veteran off the top, but you get the point. You're not having Patrick Mahomes doesn't hit free agency. Joe Burrow doesn't hit free agency. So there's nobody in free agency that you're going to pick up that's going to be an upgrade over what you have in Justin Fields, either the right now or the potential. Daniel Jones can be got it. Just stop it. Both of you, Mike and Terrence, stop it right now. Not Daniel Jones, and certainly not Andy Dalton. I don't need a repeat of that. God. Yeah, 37-year-old Joe Flacco. Yeah, that's over the course of a 17-game season. Joe Flacco might work for the Browns in spurts here at the end of the season, but over the course of 17, he's not going to get the job done for you. Over the course of 4 or 5, though, that's all they need him for as they get ready for the playoffs. So that leaves, if you're wanting to upgrade, you're going to have to trade. You're going to have to trade for that veteran. And I don't know. Yes, stop it. Stop it, Taryn, Mitch Trubisky. No, that's not happening. I don't know who. The only name I could come up with of a veteran quarterback that could be available, a good quality, high-end quarterback that could be a difference maker that might become available in the trade market, Matthew Stafford. That's about the only name I can think of that could be a high-end difference-making quarterback, veteran, that could potentially be available in the trade market. And that's not going to come cheap. Yes, you've got a lot of draft capital, but you're going to be using a lot of it then to get that guy. So if Eberflus stays, I think Fields is a lock to stay. I'd be stunned, frankly, if they'd go somewhere else, because I don't think Eberflus would want it. Yeah, to keep the carousel of journeyman quarterbacks going. Yeah, eventually you're going to see what happens when it's going to sound like retching on the microphone eventually. All right, so that's Flus. So what about Getsy then? So what about Zach Wilson? God, I want nothing to do with that. That's 17 steps backward from Justin Fields. That is Zach Wilson would be about 3 football fields in the opposite direction of an improvement over Justin Fields. So what about Luke Getsy then? Getsy clearly has his faults. We talked about how he does an excellent job of scripting. Well, as soon as that game script runs out, he doesn't have a clue of he doesn't know how to build off of the script that he writes, that he builds, that he concocts. He doesn't understand how to take the appropriate lessons from the game script and then execute the game plan from there. All right, so let's bring in another offensive coordinator. Way easier said than done. Perfect example of this. Think about the Bears 10 years ago with Lovie Smith and Jay Cutler at quarterback. They didn't want to get rid of Lovie Smith. Defensive-minded, cover two head coach, great with the players, all those wonderful things. The problem with Lovie was always, well, if they could just figure out how to operate an offense. So they kept bringing in all these offensive coordinators ad nauseum. Eventually, what happens? Coaches aren't idiots, Matt Nagy. They recognize, they can see what the situation is. That, hey, this is a head coach that's on the hot seat. He's got to win right now. And if he doesn't, then not only is he getting canned, I'm getting canned. I don't want to step into that. You're not going to get Eric Bieniemy to come replace Luke Getsy as offensive coordinator. Would that be great? Of course it would. Of course it would be an improvement. But why on earth would Eric Bieniemy want to do that? Why would he want to leave Washington to make a lateral move in Chicago? It doesn't make sense. Why would any experienced, successful offensive coordinator with play calling experience want to go to a situation where you might only have one season to prove yourself before you get axed? So you're left with having to hire somebody that's desperate, somebody that realizes that this opportunity might not come up for them again for another 2 or 3 years, if ever at all. So yeah, it's not an ideal situation, but you'll take it. That's not to say that you can't catch lightning in a bottle with somebody like that, but your chances of it are very slim. So if Eberflus is safe, as much as a lot of Bears fans aren't going to want to hear this, and trust me, I don't love hearing it come out of my own mouth, but I think if Eberflus stays, then I think they run it all back, because I think that gives them the best chance for success in 2024. And if it doesn't work, then you're Ryan Poles. You can jettison everybody at the same time and start over fresh and not have to play with one hand tied behind your back of, well, we've got this quarterback with a couple years of control left, or we've got this head coach that's got to win this year right now, or this guy over here that's got to prove himself, or these two guys have got to prove themselves to this guy. You can have everybody be on the same time slate at the same moment. I hear a lot. Mike, you brought up that first round pick from Carolina. If they stick with Fields, there's a 90% certainty that the Bears are getting the first overall pick in this year's draft. And I hear a lot of people say, how on earth can you have the number one overall pick 2 years in a row, have question marks at the quarterback position, and pass on taking a quarterback first overall 2 years in a row? You just can't do it. You might not ever wind up with this first overall pick again if you're Ryan Poles. How can you abdicate from it 2 years in a row? And I understand that thinking, and I don't disagree with it. Except I believe that it phrases the question incorrectly. Poles had the right idea last year. As Mikey Two Guns jumps into the chat. Evening, Mikey. Talking lots of hypothetical Bears stuff here. We are diving into this stuff here. Poles had the right idea last year. The question he wasn't necessarily asking, is Fields good enough? What he was asking was, who's better right now? Justin Fields or one of these three kids that everybody's looking at in the draft? Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, or the kid that's now in Tennessee whose name escapes me. The question that they should be asking is, especially if you've got Flus and Getsy there, who helps me win in 2024? Justin Fields, Drake May, or Caleb Williams? Of those three quarterbacks, or maybe throw Michael Penix in there too. Sure. Go for it. Throw Penix in there. As Will Levis, thank you guys. Look at those four quarterbacks. Who gives me the best chance to win in 2024? Justin Fields, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, or Drake May? And you go with that quarterback. And if the answer is Justin Fields, then absolutely, you trade that pick and you get a ransom for it. You play if you play your cards correctly with that, if you're willing to move back far enough, you could have multiple first-round picks in 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026, possibly even 2027, depending on when you make the trade. There are quarterbacks in virtually every draft class. You cannot possibly believe that there will never be another quarterback that gets the generational talent label thrown on him between now and 2027. You'll have multiple bites at the apple potentially at those guys. Oh, but you might not have the first overall pick. You might not. But as we saw from Carolina this year, it might very well wind up being one of them as a top 10 pick, even if yours is not. And if you need to, you can package those two picks together and move up to where you need to get. And then you're not pulling picks from multiple years, look at what that capital can do for you. I'm not scared about passing on Caleb Williams or Drake May or Michael Penix doesn't necessarily terrify me. And you cannot convince me that there will not be another quarterback that comes out between now and 2026 that people won't say will be a generational talent. I believe that there's a young man by the name of Archie Manning that's going to be coming up in either the 2025 or the 2026 draft. You can't tell me that there's not going to be somebody in those drafts that will be appealing. And if you have multiple first-round picks, then you have extra ammunition to go get them. Now, on the flip side, now Mikey's also asking, what do they do if they decide to trade Fields? Honestly, I think if they trade Fields, I don't think that you get a first-round pick for him. I really don't. Because the timeline will be you've got to make a decision on him very quickly on whether or not to extend him or franchise tag him or pick up his option or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The value's not going to be as high. Plus, draft picks are always just worth more because general managers drool over draft picks. It's just what they do. I think, though, that a second-round draft pick is not an unreasonable ask for Justin Fields. I don't feel that a second round... If Montez Sweat is worth a second, then I think Justin Fields absolutely could be worth a second-round pick. No worse than a third. I think if somebody's coming at you with less than a third-round pick, thank you very much. Give me a call back when you're serious. Mike Pat, this is the last draft there will ever be a quarterback prospect, ever. Never again will there be a quarterback to pick. Exactly. So it's just, I get where that fear is coming from, that, man, the Bears might not ever wind up picking first again. I mean, last year was the first time they picked first in like 60 years or some odd like that. So it might be a long time before they get there again. But it doesn't mean that there will never be a quarterback worth taking in the first round again. And if they constantly are able to wind up with multiple first round picks from which to choose, that can work out very well for you. I'm looking at the time and I'm realizing that, oh my gosh, I knew that I was going to dive headlong into Bears and it was going to take me a while. It took even more than I thought. I want to make this quick. We're going to do a very hard transition here. We're going to go from Bears over to Cubs, and specifically Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani signed with the Dodgers over the weekend. There had been lots of talk with the Cubs, especially Cubs social media, that the Cubs were doing everything they could to try and land him. Ultimately, he wound up signing with the Dodgers. Am I disappointed? Am I upset that the Cubs didn't land Ohtani? No. They put forth a valiant effort. They tried. They did. They put forth a good faith effort. Ultimately, he went to the team that just about everybody felt he was going to go with all along. So I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I would have loved had Shohei signed in Chicago. What does surprise me is the amount of people, both lay like myself and professional like Kaplan, who have come out and said that they're glad that the Cubs didn't spend $700 million on Shohei Ohtani. What? Shohei Ohtani is quite possibly The greatest baseball player ever. If there was somebody to drop the money on, it was Shohei, first of all. Second of all, it's not your money. It's not I don't get why fans, oh, good, the team's being fiscally sound. Why do you give a crap if they're being fiscally sound? This is baseball. There is no salary cap. There is no restriction on what an owner can spend except when the owner decides to be cheap and not spend, a la Jerry Reinsdorf. There is zero reason to not spend the money if you're a baseball owner. It's not like it's not like the baseball owner is then taking that money and giving it to the fans. You know what happens when a baseball owner doesn't spend money? He puts it in his own pocket and then whines and cries that fans don't come out to the games. Look at Oakland. Look at what happens out there. You have cheap, crappy ownership that doesn't pay, and the fans stop coming, and then they cry that the fans don't want to support them, so they move. You should be demanding that your owners spend money. The Ricketts have got money to burn. $700 million is over 10 years is a drop in the bucket to the Ricketts family. They won't feel it. And it's also not like the owner turns around and gives you, the fans, that money. It's not like there's a Benjamin Franklin Fan Appreciation Day where the first 40,000 fans get a fresh, crisp $100 bill for coming in. Though, admittedly, if you wanted to fix your attendance problems, baseball, maybe you should consider that. It might work. You might be surprised at how many fans you have showing up to the ballpark if you tried that. So am I upset that the Cubs lost the Ohtani sweepstakes? No. Am I supremely disappointed that there are fans cheering at the fact that the Ricketts didn't get him? I'm disgusted by that. Demand better from your teams. Demand that you bring in the best talent. And if it costs you money, so what? It's not your dollars. And it's not like the owner's going to feel it either. And if it's going to cause him that much of a problem, sell the team to somebody that will. All right. That is going to do it for our show here tonight. Woo! My goodness. I got a little ruffled up there at the end. Mike Pat's comments. Yeah, the Baltimore Orioles won't spend $70 million on the entire roster, let alone on one guy. Yeah, I threw that poll question out on Twitter. I asked, who makes more money over the next 10 years, Shohei or Ohtani, or every player that will come across the Pittsburgh Pirate roster over the next 10 years? Not surprisingly, Shohei won that poll. Lots of thank yous. Thank you, of course, to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Head over to planetjerky.net to check them out. Free shipping on all orders of $50 and above. Thank you to Larry B. and all the hard work you do behind the scenes, sir. I know that you are hard at work right now, listening in later. Thank you, sir. Thank you to everybody that hopped on into the chat room tonight. Marcus Losgreat, Davidson Crooks, Mike Pack, Mikey Two Guns, and of course, Taryn Rodriguez. Thank you all, gentlemen, for hopping on in. Taryn is going to be right up after us with Set Point, breaking down everything happening in the world of volleyball, including a new league that's got their inaugural draft coming up. So stick around for that. Finally, thank you, the listener. Whether it was live here tonight, whether you're listening later on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Google Play, whatever it is, thank you for being here. Spread the word. Share this with your friends. Say, hey, here's a guy that I think talks pretty well. Hey, here's this idiot. Can you believe what this clown had to say? Let me know. Share it. Let's grow this thing. Next week, of course, we're going to have more Bears talk. We'll dive into other stuff. We'll check in on the Bulls and all the other things going on. Until next week, this is Adam Karnick for Chi-Town Weekly of IE Sports Radio. Have a great week, everybody. Bear down.